Hello everyone, my name is Raya A. Arosho, and this is the summary of what I have learned for Unit 4, Week 10 to 12, for the subject The Children and Adolescent Learner and Learning Principles. Let us start with Week 10. Our topic is all about prenatal period. In prenatal period, it is good to understand the beginnings of the child and adolescent, the learners of how it all began in the process of the development inside the womb of a mother. We must learn how we all begin and created. Prenatal development is divided into three periods, and these are the stages of prenatal development. First is the germinal period. This is from conception to 2 weeks. Prenatal development that takes place in the first 2 weeks after conception. It includes the creation of the zygote, continued cell division, and the attachment of the zygote to the uterine wall. Next is embryonic period. This is 2 weeks to 2 months. Prenatal development occurs to 2 to 8 weeks. The zygote will become embryo, and it's the process of organ formation during the first 2 months of prenatal. Third is the fetal period, lasts from about 2 months after conception until 9 months when the infant is born. Dramatic course and organ system mature to the point at which life can be sustained outside the womb. There are three layers of the cells. First, the endoderm. This is the inner layer of the cell. It becomes the digestive and respiratory system. Second is the ectoderm. This is the outermost layer of the cell. It becomes the nervous, sensory receptors, and skin parts. Third is the mesoderm. This is the middle layer, and it develops into circulatory, skeletal, muscular, excretory, and reproductive system. So as the three layers of the embryo form, the support systems for the embryo develop rapidly. And there are three life support systems. First, the placenta. This is a life support system that consists of this shaped group of tissue in which small blood vessels from the mother and the offspring intertwine but do not join. Second is the umbilical cord. This contains two arteries and one vein that connects the baby to the placenta. Third is the amnion. This is a bag or an envelope that contains a clear fluid in which the developing embryo float. Teratology and hazards to prenatal development. Teratology is the field investigating the causes of congenital birth defects. Teratogen is that which causes birth defects. It comes from the Greek word tera, which means monster. Below are clusters of hazards to prenatal development. First is the prescription and non-prescription drugs. Second is the psychoactive drugs. Third is the environmental hazards. Fourth is the maternal factors. And fifth is the paternal factors. Human life begins at conception. Indeed, the mother's womb developing a human being. The sacrifices of the mother started from the day of their conception until the child sees the beauty of the world, still the mother leading us and help us to face the future. And that's for week 10. Let's proceed with week 11. The topic is all about physical development of infants and toddlers. We have just traced the developmental process before birth. Let us continue to discover the developmental process by following the infant or newborn up to when he reaches age 2. The period that comes after prenatal or antenatal stage is infancy, which in turn is followed by toddlerhood. Cephalocaudal and proximodistal patterns. So as you have learned in the stages of human development, cephalocaudal trend, this is the postnatal growth from conception to 5 months when the head grows more than the body. This trend growth that applies to the development of the fetus also applies in the first months of their birth. Infants here learn to use their upper limbs before their lower limbs. While the proximodistal trend, this is the prenatal growth from 5 months to birth when the fetus grows from the inside of the body outwards. This also applies in the first months after birth as shown, followed by that of the hands and fingers. When referring to more development, the proximodistal trend refers to the development of motor skills from the center of the body outward. Brain development. Myelination or myelinization. This is the process by which the axons are covered and insulted by layers of the fat cells. This begins prenatally and discontinues after the birth. So this process increases the speed at which information travels through the nervous system. Now, motor development. Along this aspect of motor development, infants and toddlers begin reflexes to gross motor skills and fine motor skills. Reflexes. Newborn has some basic reflexes, which are of course automatic, and serve as survival mechanisms before they have the opportunity to learn. There are many different reflexes. Some of the most common reflexes that babies have are: first, the sucking reflex. The sucking reflex is initiated when something touches the roof of an infant's mouth. Infants have a strong sucking reflex which helps to ensure they can latch onto a bottle or breast. We also have rooting reflex. The rooting reflex is most evident when an infant's cheek is stroked. The babies respond by turning his or her head in the direction of the touch and opening their mouth for feeding. Next is gripping reflex. Babies will grasp anything that is placed in their palm. The strength of this grip is strong, and most babies can support their entire weight in their grip. Curling reflex. When the inner sole of a baby's foot is stroked, the infant responds by curling his or her toes. When the outer sole of a baby's foot is stroked, the infant will respond by spreading out their toes. We also have startle or Moro reflex. Infants here will respond to sudden sounds or movements by throwing their arms and legs out and throwing their heads back. Most infants here will usually cry when startled and proceed to pull their limbs back into their bodies. Now, gallant reflex. The gallant reflex is shown when an infant's middle or lower back is stroked next to the spinal cord. The baby will respond by curving his or her body towards the side that which is being stroked. Lastly, we have tonic reflex. The tonic neck reflex is demonstrated in infants who are placed on their abdomens. Whichever side the child's head is facing, the limbs on that side will straighten, while the opposite limbs will curl. Gross motor skills. The dramatic motor development is shown in babies unable to even lift their heads to being able to grab things off the cabinet, to chase the ball, and to walk away from parent. We also have fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are skills that involve a refined use of the small muscles controlling the hand, fingers, and thumb. The development of these skills allow one to be able to complete tasks such as writing, drawing, and buttoning. Can newborns hear? The sense of hearing in an infant develops much before the birth of the baby. Can newborns differentiate odors? It requires several days of experience to recognize their mother's breast pad odor. Can newborns distinguish the different tastes? In a study conducted with babies only 2 hours old, babies made different facial expressions when they tasted sweet, sour, bitter solutions. And that's for week 11. Here is week 12. Our topic is all about cognitive development of infants and toddlers. So, babies are not only growing physically during the first 2 years of life, but also cognitively or mentally. Every day, while they interact with and learn about their environment, They are creating new connections and pathways between nerve cells, both within their brains and between their brains and bodies. Sensory motor development. The cognitive development that occurs during this period takes place over a relatively short period of time and involves a great deal of growth. Object permanence. The term object permanence is used to describe a child's ability to know that objects continue to exist even though they can no longer be seen or heard. Language development. Few important things a child might achieve in language development between 3 months and 8 years. 3 to 12 months, babies will most likely coo and laugh, play with sounds, and begin to communicate with gestures like waving. 12 to 18 months, at this age, children often say their first words. 18 months to 2 years. In your child's second year, their vocabulary has grown and they'll start to put two words together into short sentences. Your child will understand much of what you say and you can understand what your child says to you. If the child doesn't have some words, by around 18 months, talk to your child and family health nurse or another health professional. Language, expressive language. The child is able to use words and gestures to express his thoughts and feelings. Pre-reading and pre-matching. The child is able to match identical objects, colors, shapes, and symbols. Higher order mental abilities. Concept formation. The child develops basic concepts pertaining to object constancy, space, time quantity, etc., and uses this as the basis for understanding how materials are categorized in his or her environment. Higher ordered mental abilities. The child is able to understand the cause and effect relationships. So that's all for week 10 to 12. Thank you.